I got to tell you, I think what's so impressive about what the Bears did in hiring Ben Johnson is that they got a guy who has a chance.
Yeah.
I don't want to say, oh, they got the greatest young coach. They got maybe the top dog on the market, right? In terms of young coach with a chance to be, whether you're a Sean McVay guy or you love Shanahan, but he's got a chance to be that kind of a head coach.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't guarantee anything, doesn't mean anything, but there are qualities to what, when you listen to him and when he talks about the game and how he seems to understand so much about professional football, that there are definitely real positives there. And the Bears, went after the top dog, paid top dollar, and got the guy. Now, there are still other issues going on.
No question.
There are still. This is hardly a finished product, and you hear him talk about it. You're throwing a lot of stuff on people, and you're waiting to see how well they can digest it. And how well, and I guess I'm talking about the quarterback.
Yeah,
I mean, it's going to come down to the relationship between the coach and the quarterback at some point.
That's it. I'm writing a big training camp primer for the start of camp in a couple of weeks, and one of the main things in there is this person that I call Ben and Caleb. Because they have to become one, right?
Yep.
Like, we're going to talk a lot about Ben Johnson's
Yep.
leadership. We're going to talk a lot about Caleb Williams' growth through training camp. But the synergy between the two of them is everything to where the season goes. And it's got to start immediately in the first practice of training camp and continue to build through July and August. Caleb Williams has raised his hand and said, I want to be coached really hard. And Ben Johnson has said, oh, yeah, watch this, right? And so now you have to, the old saying in journalism, if your mother says she loves you, check it out,
Yes,
right? And so,
that's right.
Caleb says he wants to be coached hard. Check it out. Let's see how hard he wants to be coached, and can he handle some of the demands that Ben Johnson and his staff are going to put on him. They've got a long way to go. They think they've got a lot to work with the skill set.
Yeah.
And now it's all about kind of molding that offense around Caleb and not trying to take what was very successful for Jared Goff in Detroit and force it into Caleb's plate. And so that's going to be fascinating to kind of watch that evolve through the 6 weeks of camp. By the way, with a couple crossover practices at House all mixed in, which I think will be really timely little almost progress reports on where the Bears are at.
Yeah, that's exactly what they are. And I mean, listen, there's not going to be big hitting sessions or anything like that when you have another opponent in and you're going to be playing a game against them. But it's something different when you're going through the kind of rigmarole of camp, to have something different and to have something that you can kind of measure yourself against is a great. It's not, everyone on the defense sees the same plays, and oftentimes they're forced to watch the same play because they don't really want them trying to take over. And it's tiresome. It's boring and it's repetitive, and people get sick of it. And it's great to have a couple of little practices, just something different, a different look, something to get your juices going a little bit.
You get some of those one-on-one sessions that are really, really competitive, and then obviously some of the team stuff, you get to learn a little bit about where your flaws are. Look, like, Ben's got really impressive leadership qualities to him. What I'm fascinated to see is how you make the initial impression that you made through April and May and early June, and now you have to get guys to uphold the standards that you've set, right? Like, it's very easy to set standards. It's much harder to uphold them, and they're going to have to do that day by day. I think he feels really confident with the coaching staff he's assembled, and from my reporting, since he was hired, that seems to be the thing around the league that people are talking about, that this is a really sturdy assistant coaching staff, right? You've got a coordinator in Dennis Allen who can take the reins of the defense, and you don't have to lose sleep wondering whether he knows what he's doing. You've got guys around you with Antoine Randall, Eric Bieniemy on offense that can help steer the ship. There's some really, really good coaches here and a good blend of youth and experience that they're going to lean on. And Ben, I think, has to be aware that this head coaching job is different than anything he's ever done. And it's very different in a market like this where every word you say, every move you make will be scrutinized.
I think it was either his introductory news conference or shortly thereafter, he talked about the idea of the quarterback and the play caller having sort of the same vision of the field. And the only way you get to that was watching tape together. And he planned on breaking down a ton of tape where they can look at it together, talk it through, and Caleb can come to an understanding of the way the play caller is thinking the game. I thought that was excellent.
There's no question, and you have to do that in a setting that builds trust where neither side can be defensive, and you got to be really open-ended on like, hey, coach, this doesn't really work for me. I don't see it the way you do, and we can try to force feed this, but it's just not going to work. Or, hey, quarterback, like these are the expectations, and when this play is designed, the ball's got to come out now, right? Like you can't wait another second and a half. Otherwise, you're on your behind, and you're adding to that 68 sack total that you had as a rookie, and you've got to understand what the expectations are. And so I go back many, many times to what Ryan Poles said the day that Ben Johnson was introduced, where he said, Ben will challenge Caleb to be a professional football player. And it was like kind of this whoa moment where you're like, well, what is, what happened last year, right? Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And so now you've got a coach that's going to do that, and Caleb has to have buy-in. You can give him the excuses with Waldron and Eberflus, and now it's like this has to work, dude.
Was it a wasted year for his career?
I hate saying wasted year because I think all these experiences are growth oriented, and like I think Caleb was in some moments last year where we got to see the late game hunger and like the late game, this isn't too big for me moment. We talked for years about Justin Fields not meeting those moments with the game on the line, and Caleb did that a few times last year. Obviously, they had a field goal blocked against the Packers, didn't get a game-winning drive there. They didn't end up winning the game in overtime when they scored 2 touchdowns in the last couple minutes there. But you saw him rise up and meet those moments. They don't forget, they scored a touchdown late in the Washington game after having putrid offense for 3 quarters. They took the lead in the final seconds of that game.
They won the game.
Right.
Then they found a way to lose.
And so, like, those things are not wasted because those build belief in your teammates. Those build belief in yourself that, I can do this on this level. And that's what this position comes down to so often. Once you master everything else, it's like, okay, here's the fourth quarter. Here's the last 7 minutes. It's a 1-score game. Go do something with it. Make sure we walk out of here with a win. And I think getting those experiences for Caleb were really beneficial.
And I think that we've heard the hunger to be coached and all that stuff from him. I don't know how to say this because I want to be careful, but he has always had like a supportive coaching situation. Sure. And that's, he went to Oklahoma and he transferred to USC because he was connected to a coach that he felt was there for him and supporting him. And he struggled at different times. It wasn't all perfect. Won the Heisman as a junior, struggled in his senior year, or was that his junior year? I lose track of life. But anyway, comes out, gets to the NFL, and here he is. And all of a sudden, the support system doesn't seem like it's working. Feels like the Bears are a mess.
Yeah.
And I just wonder how hard coaching or how, does Ben Johnson is a math guy. He's a science guy. He's a technology guy. He's the, not that he doesn't have humanity, but he wants this, and this, and look at it like this, and this. And I don't know that he's going to be there with a lifesaver. Hey, son, like suck on a lifesaver. You'll feel better about life.
Right.
I don't know that he's that kind of feel good, lovey-dovey.
You're all over it. I mean, you're all over it. This is going to be fascinating to see how those personality types mesh, and they've got to build trust quickly because it is a thing where both sides are going to have to give a little bit, but they are going to be who they are going to be, and you've got to make that work somehow. And you I think it was Cole Kmet who said in the spring that Ben isn't detail oriented. He's obsessed with details, like to a level where it's like, oh God, like there may be some OCD in here with how precise he wants every little piece of the offense. But I've said that Ben comes in with the credibility of, hey guys,
Number one offense in the league.
Let me show you the 68 touchdowns we
Yes.
scored last season in Detroit. And let me tell you why I'm obsessed with the details, because this is the results it produces. And boy, did the people in Detroit have a lot of fun last year watching that weekly fireworks show of touchdown, 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 touchdown all over the field. So there's a method to the madness.
Yes.
You've just got to get it to resonate with each individual player, and in particular with the quarterback. And I think what you're hinting at there is whether Caleb can thicken his skin enough to take some really abrasive coaching at times, right?
Yes.
Like, 'cause it's going to need to be abrasive for the Bears to get this thing launched properly.
One of the great moments of the off season is, the early part of what we've seen is he's got to get rid of the ball.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I got to tell you, there are so many times when you were watching them and we talked to Jim Miller at one point, the former Bears quarterback, our Jim Miller, and he was saying that when you watch the play where DJ walks off the field and sits down, the reason he did it is because he's on the sidelines waiting for the football, which should be in his hands, and Caleb hasn't released it yet, and he knows that the moment's gone, and he's frustrated, and he walks off the field and sits down. Now, I want to run that by DJ if we get a chance to do that, and we've saved the cut because we want to play it for him. But I think that's probably an accurate description of exactly what happened at that point. And again, you got a rookie quarterback and you got a veteran receiver, and it's true. Like, you gotta get rid of the ball, and it's great you're not throwing picks, but you can't take that many sacks. That's a bad idea. And he took a lot of sacks in part because he didn't get rid of the ball as quickly as you need to in the NFL. And like, your athletic ability will allow you to extend the play, to move around in the college game. I don't know that the speed of players in the league allows you to do those sort of things. Now, he had some great freelance moments. I'm not saying he didn't. But you can't live like that in the NFL.
You can't live like that. You have to have that in your bag of tricks, but you can't live like that. And I think that's been a consistent theme from anybody not attached to the Bears who's watched Caleb Williams extensively and said, like, this is really special stuff that you do. You can't make it your go-to weapon on every play, on every drive. You've got to be able to live within structure. You got to understand timing. You've got to understand that this offense that you're going to play in a lot of times is going to be take the snap, get ball to playmaker, let playmaker get you 8 yards, and then and let's see what's next on the call sheet, right? And so that's going to be some of the rhythm that Ben and Caleb have to find together, and Caleb's going to have to understand this is the whole concept of command at the quarterback position in the NFL is every single play has its own set of demands, and you have to know when you break that huddle what this play needs to do for you. And again, like, when it comes time to put on the cape and do the special things, go do them, but understand that when the play is called, it is for a specific purpose, and you better be aware of what that purpose is and go get it. The other thing with Ben that I love, and I love talking to him about this in the spring, is this Detroit concept of going for it on fourth down all the time.
Yes.
Once you ingrain that into your identity, it also changes who you are on third down. Because if it's 3rd and 8, 5 yards is fine.
Yeah.
Because you can go to 4th and 3 and you have your call sheet and the things you can lean on. And so now all of a sudden 3rd and long doesn't become as stressful. It's like, okay, we can live with this check down for 5 yards because we know we've got something in our back pocket that's going to pick up the first down on 4th and shorter. And so that's going to be interesting to see how they kind of navigate that as well, because I think that is part of Ben's DNA, and he's going to bring that to Chicago pretty quickly.
Is that so? That's fascinating to me. Are you saying that it's not Dan Campbell that's the riverboat gambler? Maybe
I think it's a combination of the two of them, right? And that's why it worked so well, is because they both believed in the same things. But I do think that Ben loves the idea of, like, yeah, let's screw it. We're going for it here. We know the situation. We're very confident in who we are, and you can do that when you've got the league's best offense. It's going to be interesting if they are just a middle tier offense, how aggressive they stay.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
To me, like, one of the great things about what Ben Johnson does is play action. Mm-hmm. And I never understood why they couldn't do more play action. It didn't make any sense to me, because it will buy you a couple of seconds. It will buy you the chance to make a big play, a play down the field.
No question.
And I think that now you're going to that, but you're doing it. You don't have kind of the run. You got the 20th running back in the league, let's say.
I was going to say, yeah.
Discussed earlier. So I don't know, and you got a quarterback that hasn't been underneath center. Mm-hmm. So it's just like, it is, I don't know how to feel. I love the idea of it. But are we understanding of what the issues are here before you get to that point?
As a trained journalist, you're doing the journalistic exercise before the tidal wave of high pitch training camp, right? Because this is all of it, right? Like you bring up another point about Caleb still working on his comfort working under center, and how that has to marry up with mesh points in a play action game and all the things that come with that. And so a lot of this stuff is very much work in progress. Yes. And I think that the fan base here expects this to be ready-made. Instant, put it in the microwave, let's go. By the first preseason game, the offense is a finished product. And I think we consistently warn that, be prepared for some bumps in the road until Halloween, right? As you're trying to get everything acclimated. The play action thing is going to be a staple of this offense. There's no question. Yeah. And it has to be behind a running game that is effective, and a running game has to be effective with these three interior guys that you brought in to help save the day for your quarterback, but who also have to be grinders in the running game to get that thing moving.
Yeah, I think that's going to be one of the funner things about training camp is you're finally going to see these guys in pads.
Yeah.
And I mean both sides of the line of scrimmage. The problem the Bears had is they did not win the line of scrimmage. That was a huge problem for them a year ago. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how well they're set up to do that. And I think they are. I think they've improved.
Yeah.
And they've got some veteran players. I think they'll be good at it. But, Joe Thuney, a guy like that should solidify a lot of this. You got a center you're paying big dollars to. That should help solidify some of this. I don't know that I trust everything to work out without any the whole Ozzie thing and how cool it is. Oh my God, he's going to be a left tackle. Look, they got a left tackle. Tap the brakes on that one a little bit. I'm not saying it can't happen. I'm just saying that's not how the guy was sold.
Sure.
Maybe they saw something different, but I'm not sure he's a left tackle to begin with.
He better be.
Well, he's going to have to be.
Because you used premium draft capital. That's a round 2 pick. That's not day 3. That's not Braxton Jones, day 3 flyer. We're gonna see if this works. And hey, it did work for a couple of years, and we got serviceable play out of it. Like, you have to find yourself a starting left tackle pretty quickly. And they've been very forthright at House Hall and saying, look, we don't want this to drag out through the entire month of August. We want to know who our 5 are and then be able to build from there. And you bring up another point. What does offensive line depth look like here?
Right.
That tackle position, we don't know Braxton Jones' situation. We don't know what Karan Amagaji looks like in a training camp. We don't know much about Ozzie Trapillo. So
now you want to talk about prime draft capital. There's a guy, Amagaji, that you used a high pick on because you thought he was something, and there's no evidence to that at all. And doesn't mean it can't work.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean he can't be that. It just means it's not shown, and Braxton Jones is hurt, by the way. He's got to build his body up, but he's got a leg issue. Don't worry about it. It'll all work out.
You're going to be looking at an injury report on report day where you're going to be like, what's going on here, right? Like, is Colston Loveland cleared for full activity?
Yeah.
What's the story with Luther Burden? How is Braxton Jones doing? Do we know if Kyler Gordon is going to be able to participate in an entire training camp? It looks like from things I've seen on social media that he's been back up and running after missing a good portion of the offseason program. But that injury report's going to be a daily watch list with some of those high-profile names that are already there. And then obviously as well as anyone that when camp goes on, there's always additions, and then
no
it
question
tests
about
who
it.
you are.